You are listening to Starter Girls Podcast with Jennifer Loading. Whether you are starting a project, starting a business, starting a brand, or starting a movement, we are here to talk about it. And I'm super excited today. I've got on here a special co-host guest today, Dr. Brandon Brown, the Migraine Doctor.
What's up, everyone?
He is also one of the hosts on the Don't Be So Brewed podcast. So
that
we're super excited.
That is also true.
Yep.
People can go check that out. After they watch yours, of course. Watch this first, then go check out one of ours.
Absolutely. Go check it out. Absolutely. So we meet in the same studio, which is a lot of fun. So we get to do a little bit of collaborating, and that always makes things kind of exciting. So we're going to have a fun time today. I'm excited. So my guest today, super excited. We've got an awesome guest on here, Aaron Zack. And so I'm going to tell our listeners a little bit about you real quick, Aaron, and then we're going to get into this. Sound fair?
Thank you.
All right. So Aaron attended the University of Texas at Austin and followed that up by obtaining his MBA. He has utilized those skills to grow businesses, brands, and athlete partnerships throughout the marketplace. He started his sports career as an intern at a Dallas-based sports agency and worked his way up to the events manager, as well as the marketing and PR director within the agency. Shortly after obtaining his NFLPA agent license, he launched Revolving Mind Media and split it into, I can't talk today, split into 3 divisions.
There you go.
Athlete division, business brand division, and investment division. All right, so welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
We're super excited to have you here.
I'm happy to be here as well. Thanks.
Absolutely.
I was about to say, come in and slide in a little closer.
It's all good.
It's like your friend. We're just going to hang out.
Sometimes I'm too loud for my own good.
Hey,
so.
it's all good. I am too.
You can't be any worse than me. Trust me. Chloe will
I don't
tell
know.
you.
I might be catching up with you over there.
I don't know. I'm still going to, I'm telling you. I will accept any challenge.
All right. Well, this is going to be fun then today. Aaron, you'll have to keep up. I've been on their show before, but it's been a while. It was when we were first starting out, so I was a guest on their show. But this is the first time I've had one. Or I had Jason on. I did have Jason on here, so it's the first time I've had Brandon on here. So this should be fun today.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Okay, so Aaron, I want to start off, and Brandon, you can jump in anytime you think you got something you want to talk about. Just jump in and talk. Okay?
I'm sure I can find something.
Exactly. So I wanted to. Aaron's got such an impressive bio. You've done a lot of great things, and we talked on the phone before we got you on here, and so I think your story is amazing. I know your dad, and he talks a lot about you. I always have fun chatting with him. So tell us a little bit how you got into this industry. Like, how did this work for you?
So I realized I didn't have the athletic ability to play on the football field, so I needed to get onto the field a different path. So actually at the age of 11 or 12, I told my family that I was going to be an NFL sports agent. I knew that's where I wanted. I just had to figure out my path to get there. So I wanted to major in sports management. I applied to the top 2 sports management programs in the country, decided I wanted to stay close to home but far enough away. So went to UT Austin, did a minor in business with my sports management major, and I got an awesome internship following my freshman year of college with the second largest NFL agency in the Southwest. So it was an unpaid internship for the first 2 years and just had to really grind my way up there. I never wavered from my major. I always kind of stayed on the path, which was very fortunate, as a lot of my friends were switching majors, trying to figure out what they wanted to do. I always knew where I wanted to get to. So I worked my way up within the agency, learned the tricks of the trade, built out my relationships, and then built up the confidence to launch my own agency as I was becoming and taking my agent license. So that's kind of where I'm at today. And that's where, I have Revolving Mind Media today. As you mentioned, I split it into 3 divisions, but yeah, I really knew what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed putting more money in people's pockets, which I get to do every single day for my athletes and my businesses and brands. And that's kind of the most fulfilling part of my day-to-day, and there's new conversations every day.
I love it. Well, and I couldn't get the 3 split out for whatever reason. I couldn't say that word. I've had too many shows today, I think.
Oh, I thought you were going to say too many shots.
I was about to say, they don't know, but for you, it's like boom, boom, boom. We're just loading these things up.
Yeah, I was like cranking shows out today, right? So I start reading those bios. It's like after a while, I'm like, mesmerized by it.
You get a little tongue-tied. You only have so many words per day, and you're probably like, you might be at about 90%. So I get it, which I thought was cool to actually hear that. I started out as a sports management major when I started going to school. I wanted to be in sports broadcasting. I wanted to be like work my way up to that. I thought it was always something that was cool, which now I technically get to do. I just don't get paid for it. That's kind of what we do with our podcast is we do some live broadcasting where we just watch sports games, UFC fights, different stuff like that, and just kind of BS about it. Mm-hmm. But I think that's very cool because I had a similar, and still do to some extent, but I'm like, I'm never going to get there. And I think that's we kind of joked about it with the basketball thing that we were talking about before this, of just like, you have that thing in your head of like, well, I could do that at any point in time, right? It's not necessarily my greatest passion, but I'm like, man, it would just be so fun to do.
Exactly.
Because you watch the guys that get to be on TV and do that, but I didn't necessarily go the, be a handsome quarterback on a big successful team and then get asked to be a sports broadcaster, which basically seems to be the way that it is. Either be a really successful coach or a really good-looking quarterback, and that's how you get into one of those spots.
You're 100% right about that.
Well, you have a good voice for it, so you could have that.
I'm telling you, I wanted to so bad. Maybe I'll just do it for a local high school spot, and that'll kind of fill the need for me, and I'll be like, it sort of counts.
Yep, that's
right. No, I love it. So how long has your company been in existence then?
We launched in 2016. It'll be 4 years this summer, and we started off just with I brought a couple athletes over from my previous agency, and I knew the way everything was structured on the athlete side, we were taking a percentage of endorsement deals that we have, but there was no base, there was no monthly retainer. So my business partner is on the creative side, anything digital. He's built websites, apps, all kinds of anything digital marketing. And so we wanted to create that hybrid where I was going to be focused on the athlete partnerships and athlete representation, and he was going to be focused on businesses and brands. And that's one thing that's really helped us run with our agency, is we've been able to create a lot of unique partnerships without having a lot of different individuals involved in a negotiating process. For example, we were able to start working with Lyft Transportation. We moved into an office 2 doors down from them in downtown Dallas, and representing athletes and working with Lyft, we were able to force these partnerships and create them. Wow. And work on both sides. So we always know what the businesses and brand is looking for. And I also know what my clients on the athlete side are looking for. So there's ways to find that middle ground. And we've been fortunate to create a lot of unique partnerships that way.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. And it's great that you guys are bringing your talents together, because one of the things I was talking about on the show prior to yours is it's the strength finders, finding your strengths. And when you can partner up with somebody who has maybe something that you're not quite as, I don't want to say not great at, you probably can't do it, but maybe that's not your selling point, right?
Definitely not my thing. I'm not that creative, technological.
Your bottom 5. Yeah. When you start looking at bottom 5, because I've done strength finders too. You look at that bottom 5, you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense of I'm up here, not down here. These are not. So yeah, that would make,
well,
that's
you
how
guys,
you build a team.
You're going to laugh today, because I don't know if you guys have this on your podcast, but I have something called, it's that vidIQ that you can put on there that actually, it's like the analytics, but it goes in and it'll actually help you do like keyword search and all of that. Yeah. So I'm trying to learn all that, and I'm looking at that today, and I'm like, okay, listen, I'm the creative one. I'm like, all I want to do is entertain and talk and engage with people and socialize. I don't care about all that analytics, right? But you got to care about that, right? So I'm like, that's where where the strength finders plays in, because I'm like, okay, clearly that part is not me.
Right. And a lot of agencies, when I was launching our Revolving Mind Media, our focus was not just getting an account manager that was fresh out of college, that you plug in and they do a lot of different roles, but they're not an expert in any specific role. We've hired the social media director that is an expert in that field, the SEO and SEM expert, the PR expert that's connections to phone calls away from Oprah. Those are the individuals that we needed to really scale, and we didn't offer those services until I hired those individuals. But now we have that full scope, and we can really bring that value. A lot of businesses see us intriguing because of our athlete opportunities, and also see how strong we are on the marketing side. So we've been fortunate on that end.
Yeah, I love it. You got a lot of great things going on. So you want to share with us some of these things? We obviously got that you're working with the Lyft.
Yeah.
Who are some of your clients? Tell us who you got.
So I was exclusively NFL up until last year. So I started off representing some 6th-round picks from the Cowboys, like an Anthony Brown, Kayvon Frazier, who just moved over to the Dolphins. And then there were other individuals on the team that, who's making you all this money? So started working with the Jalen Smiths of the world, who I've never met anybody half of
Brandon's
him.
Getting excited over there.
I love the Dallas Cowboys.
He's on the next level. I moved into the NBA world last year and started. My first client was Kawhi Leonard, who is arguably one of the best, if not the best, right behind LeBron James.
Just won a championship last year. No big deal.
I've been fortunate, and it's really just been, I don't do any cold calls. I don't do any recruiting. Everything I do is working with these 6th-round picks to then prove that I was making more money than, for them than their teammates. And that's what's really elevated me to the next level. The Kawhi Leonard didn't happen overnight. It was a 3-4 year process of working with his agent and getting to know him. But my big thing is I don't really work with any agents. I'll only work with the player directly. So when I was 24, I became the youngest NFL agent in the business. So negotiating agent, I was representing some like practice squad guys, not top tier players. And it was right around when the NFL was suggesting that agents only get 1.5% of the contract. So I really, when that happened, I said I need to pivot a little bit. It was holding me back from signing guys on the marketing side because I was an NFL agent. So their agent saw me as a threat. So I let my license go after a couple of years and solely focused on the marketing agency side. And that's expanded my portfolio. I've worked with the Des Bryants of the world, starting from when he was at Oklahoma State. And all the way through his career.
Again, another one for me. I love it. You work with some good people.
Brandon's over there like doing
But yeah, my biggest thing with working with these guys is not working with just the stereotypical athlete that has a big name. They have to have the interest off the field. They have to, show that entrepreneurial spirit. Otherwise, I'm not gonna be able to get them the right types of deals. A lot of what I focus on with my clients now is equity deals. A lot of these guys are in it for a quick cash deal, paid post, blah, 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 blah. I want them to build that long-term wealth. And so that's what's really expanded my client portfolio. And then on the business side, we work with the fastest growing cryotherapy company in the country by the name of iCryo. We work with small wineries in the Dallas area. So I would say my business portfolio on the business and brand side is about 75% small business, 25% the lifts of the world. And that's really just a little bit of how I was raised, of working with my dad in the retail business since he started his business in 98. So I've been able to see the ins and outs of a small business. And I'm able to really show my marketing strength with these small businesses more and show that my traffic is driving to sales, which is really fulfilling. So those are a few of client name drops.
Just a few there.
Yeah,
so were you? So I gotta know.
Yeah.
Were you a part of Kawhi's move in
New
the
Balance?
shoe? Yes.
No,
Okay.
I was not.
I was
So-
interested to be of like, man, if you were the one that did that, I would be so fascinated to know, because it was such an interesting shift to go, because no athlete goes that
and
direction.
he has equity in New Balance, like the New Balance company. The LeBrons of the world don't have equity in Nike.
No.
That's a deal is a next level deal, and his agent Mitch Frankel is a close friend of mine, and that's how I got to that level of working with him. But yeah, he negotiated that deal over like a 18-month time frame.
Dang.
And yeah, it
was
a
very
big
fascinating
deal.
to see, because everybody goes Nike, Under Armour,
Adidas.
Like, there's not very many players in the game, and New Balance is definitely not one that New Balance is jokingly the dad shoe.
Yeah, and he doesn't have.
Hey, I wear
social
those
media.
shoes.
Or the mom shoe,
And the
apparently.
crazy thing is, nowadays everyone's so fixated on the amount of followers you have. That's what everything is.
Yep.
Kawhi's not on
Again,
social.
numbers. Yeah, I was about to say, Kawhi has no social media.
Doesn't do interviews, like very under the radar, but they got content and they do their ads, and that's where it's shown. But yeah, it's a pretty phenomenal deal for him.
It's interesting too, like you said, I'm sure, to be able to leverage and to talk about certain things. Like, those are great things to have when you're bringing in to a brand. And with that one, you're like, you've got to pivot a little bit on what's the strategy here, what's the approach. Because it's like, typically it's like, listen, they've got this much. This is how many people watch their stories. This is what's going on here. Like, we've got statistics to be able to give you to
Who
go,
their
this makes
following
sense.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, and their following is a majority of this age. This is kind of what you're looking for.
Male,
You like
female.
you match it up well versus, yeah, well, this guy doesn't really post a lot on social media because he doesn't have it.
Right.
But he did just win a championship, and there are a lot of eyes on him, and people know and talk about him. So,
Exactly. And everyone knew that the LA opportunity was going to be there, and so that was a huge opportunity of the market
I was
of
so
LA
surprised,
compared to Toronto.
so surprised the way that he worked that deal to get Paul George from Oklahoma, like, to get to work and to have the Lakers hanging on the line the whole time.
For sure.
It was almost like, screwed you guys and got this
In the way
deal.
it happened, I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but the story
Dude, you're
behind-
just sitting there waiting,
the
because every
story
day.
behind it. So I was out in LA while that was happening, looking at wedding venues, and I was texting with his agent, and his agent says, oh, well, if you have a chance to come by the Fairmont Grand Del Mar, I'm here. And this was before I had the opportunity to work with Kawhi. He said, hey, if you are in the area, come on by. I was at the venue. We were touring his hotel,
Wow.
and
Perfect.
that's really how it all started spiraling.
See,
and moving
what are
forward.
the
So,
chances?
Right place, right time.
Listen, that works, especially for, again, a guy like that that's on fire that, Jennifer, you may not. I never want to assume. Kawhi was a fantastic player, considered one of the best two-way players, so he's good at offense and defense.
Okay.
He's a freak of nature athlete, really good. Been on the Spurs, won championships with them. Wasn't happy with them and happy with the program. They decided, okay, then we'll give you to the Raptors. He was there for one season, took them and won a championship. By the way, got to the finals on the most crazy shot that you've ever seen in your life. It was the quadruple dink or whatever. So basically, he was running to the corner, has like three guys running at him, throws up a prayer, and it hits the front of the rim, which is basically, if you talk of physics, is impossible to hit this side of the rim and go up and over and bounce on this side, bounce on this side, bounce on that side again, and then go in. At the buzzer, just ridiculousness. And to bring a championship to them, and everyone's like, well, he might stay, he might do this. I'm like, he's not staying. His worth is so high right now. The world is his. He's going to be able to go wherever he wants. And with LeBron saying, hey, I'm going to the Lakers, everybody's like, dude, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and if Kawhi goes there, people are in trouble.
Correct.
That no one else will win. They will be in trouble. This will be the next dynasty over the next few years, because that's the way the NBA works now. You get the good players, you put them all together on one team, and no offense to everyone else, you're in trouble because you can't.
And he didn't follow suit.
And he didn't. He literally was able to pull another good player, Paul George, to an already really good roster of players on the Clippers.
So good for the NBA.
So basically, same town, same arena, and he's like, no, but I'm going to play for this team. So it was just, it was a very interesting move to make.
And it was great for just the game of sports, right? Like, there's so many teams in
It keeps
the
it
NBA
competitive.
that have two strong players. Like, there's probably about 8 teams if the NBA picks back up, like I hear they're trying to do.
I'm hoping. Everyone has agreed.
And I think it'll take place at Disney. I think that's
You think so? I know that they were talking about that. There was a couple.
That's the move. I think they have the hotel resorts are empty. So being able to have everyone there and
I'm grateful for the UFC because I think they're showing people that it can be done.
Oh, for sure.
It'll be weird to not have fans, but we'll still get sports. And again, the experience I think has been different because you'll be able to hear things that you weren't able to hear before.
For sure.
Yeah.
And in the fights, we've been able to hear people talking trash to each other. We've been able to hear, there was one guy that was fighting this last weekend that was on top of a guy, pummeling him, and he said, I'm sorry. It's just a part of the game. And the guy goes, it is what it is.
Oh,
literally.
Did you hear about Greg Hardy, the former Cowboys player?
Yeah. So he heard Daniel Cormier.
The announcer.
Daniel Cormier is, again, talking about what we're doing, was critiquing him, and he could hear him in there because there's no fans.
Yeah.
And so he took that critique and used it and was able to win.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
I did watch UFC. I didn't watch this last one, but yeah, no, it's weird though not to have people.
So weird, but it's a different experience. And I think with basketball, if you get to hear some of that, like,
yeah.
So I've always had. There's a couple ideas that I've had for the NFL. I feel like I've sort of taken over your show, so
we're
apologize.
We're gonna reel it back in just a few minutes.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
fine.
let you go. It's okay. We got this.
So I think that there
sports
needs
talk.
to be some sort of sensor inside of a football and some sort of sensor that goes on the goal line. And there needs to be some way to because now there's still too much guessing in a world where we can get down to the millimeter of everything, like some sort of sensor that's like, oh yeah, that got in, like the buzz, this went off. Obviously, it'd have to be tamper proof. You couldn't have the ability for people to be able to mess with that. I understand the need for that. I also think that if you did a pay-per-view of NFL games and there were mics all along the field and we could listen to what is actually being said in the game, I would pay for that.
Well, it was the most intriguing part of the XFL.
Yes.
Right? That's what, not that they
You
got
could
great
hear or
ratings,
know,
but
yeah.
the
Yeah.
interviews were happening, like everything was taking
Live,
place in the huddle,
immediately.
in the halftime locker room,
Yeah,
like all of
you
that.
wanted to see that stuff. It's like we always want that exclusive. What's the thing that I can see that
Right.
no one else can?
Yeah.
And you know how ridiculous it gets on a football field.
Yep.
And if you don't, let me tell you, it gets ridiculous. The stuff that's said, the frustrations, the trash talk, coaches being upset, situations, like I just think it would be so cool to be like, hey, we've placed mics all over. We've got this whole setup. Somebody comes in and pitches that, and it's like, and it's probably going to become a thing, and I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be like, that was my idea. But I just want to say it now. That way I can claim it of like, I just think that would be cool.
You need to get a patent on that. Get
Right.
moving. That might be your project you can work on right there. See?
Yeah, because I need a few more.
You can't be the sportscaster.
You got so much time on your hands.
I know,
Exactly,
you know,
so
just
much
there's
time on
so
it.
much.
That was a whole good segment. This podcast is going to be really fun. It's going to be like, what happened to that podcast?
Right.
It got hijacked. But no, it's all good. And this is why we had to bring him here.
We're speaking to your sports crowd here a little bit.
Exactly, because the sports is not, it's my thing. I do watch UFC, though. I do like UFC. That is the one.
Which surprises me the most of any of these, if you're like, oh, but I do watch this one.
I do like
You like to
UFC.
watch people punch each other in the face. Who's your favorite fighter?
I don't know that
Or who do you like?
Oh, I can't remember the name. I don't know because there's so many. I don't remember I don't watch them like enough to have like a fighter that I watch every time. There's Cowboys
Do you like
been
watching?
on there.
Yeah.
and,
Do you like watching certain? Do you like watching certain divisions? Like,
Well, I
are you
actually
more?
like watching women more.
Yeah, I was about to say. Listen, the women
The
are
women are
crazy
so mean.
entertaining.
They're like so crazy.
Crazy.
But I can't even tell you like I can't remember the last two that were on there because like I watch it, but I don't always pay attention. Like I don't watch. Like I'm not gonna watch when it be like that fighter's on. I'm gonna go watch it again.
Well, Amanda Nunes is coming up, and she's
She's
a 2-division championship, and she's a beast, and she's fighting in like June, so you'll definitely want to get that one.
Yeah, I'm just not.
But
When I say
she's-
favorite fighter, I'm like, there's a lot of them. But I mean, I don't like that person's fighting. I'm gonna watch because that person. So
Yeah.
I get there, and it's kind of like this. They're fighting. Who's the player? Who's
Yeah.
rooting for? Like I have
Right.
no idea. I'm just coming to watch them fight.
And I love it because there's every level of like how much do you get into it of like.
Yeah.
I'm obviously the complete opposite spectrum. If you're like a well-known name, I've got to know like all these intricate.
Well, that's why we brought you on here today, so you could have that conversation.
I try to, yeah.
Because I'm not. I would be like, okay, I know these names, but I don't follow all the stats and the details and all that stuff. And
Right.
now, if you want to talk business, I can do that.
I was about to say, I'm
I
down
can
for
do
that
that.
too.
I can do that. Okay, so I'm gonna reel it back in for just a second because we'll probably get on to another tangent here in a minute. Be all good. So this is my fun. This is I don't know if it's a fun question. I always like to ask this because the podcast is about mindset and grit and tenacity and all that stuff. So when you were doing all this, because obviously, like you had this impressive career in such like a very short time, and you're young. I mean, this is like I'm listening to this and I'm like, wow, okay, this is awesome. What was the hardest thing that you had to do? Like, what was the most, like the toughest thing you had to do to get this business up and running and really push your way to pave this?
The easy answer is financial, but that's kind of a cop-out answer, I think. I think my biggest thing was finding the right client makeup on my business side more than anything, businesses and brand side. When someone hires us as a marketing agency, they need to be able, they're hiring us because we're the experts in the field. If someone thinks they're the expert in marketing, we can't get anything done. So my third client that I had to fire. I did a short-term contract because I was a little hesitant about them in the first place. But it was just something that, I need to make sure that they're hiring us because we are the right people. But if we don't have the keys to drive, we can't get anything done. So it's the client makeup, really.
Sometimes people want to be their own doctor.
Yeah.
It can always, again, I take it back to that, but sometimes people want to tell you they want to control the situation.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm like, I just don't think this is going to work.
Yeah, and then on the athlete side, if they aren't, there's a couple things I look for. And number one being promptness. I had a video photo shoot. It was a 6-figure deal, and the client was 2.5 hours late to the shoot. And like, I just can't operate that way. I can't market them. I can't sell them.
Right.
The deal could have fallen through if I didn't have that true partnership with them, and signed and dotted. And so, yeah, that's a big thing that I really look for more than anything is the client makeup.
I would agree with you on that part, though, even because I coach. And so it's the same thing. Like I always have to do like an initial consultation with them because I have to make sure, because I have a very strong personality as well. So I have to make sure the person that I'm working with that we mesh, because if I get somebody in there and I'm trying to help them and they think they know more than me, then why do you need me?
Right, exactly.
Or you don't need me.
So,
You've got it figured out.
And I was designating over 50% of our agency time to this one client when I have, at the time, I was like, I don't know, there were 11 other ones that they were losing my time because I was designating all this time for one.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing.
I love it. I was about to say, I love the crossover in business because like you were just talking about in business, like there's so many things that hold true. And like, same for me. It's just, there's the ones that we always talk about, like they bring your energy down. Like if you ever tell that there's like just it's just like, oh, like there's clients that I'm so excited when they're coming in and I'm so pumped and like the energy's great. And then there's the ones that you're like, oh gosh, when she comes in here at 4, it's like, okay, we'll do this. We'll get him out of here as quick. And then it's like, okay, now I'm back on to the ones that I love serving, which is, so I love that whether it's that or what you do or what I do, it's that principle of like, you've got to figure out who you work the best with and who you really enjoy working for, and then really stick to that. Like, I think the way that you put it is like, it would be very easy to just take the money for any situation and just be man, we need to be able to do this. So it's like, man, we want to be the expert. We want to take really good care of you, and we want to make sure that we're the right fit for this situation.
100%.
Yeah.
It's funny. I talk about this all the time about my 3 rule, and I think you can take this into business too, because I always say, like when I'm meeting people, I'm almost like, I joke about this, like I have a dog sense. I know whether I like somebody right away, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like we're gonna talk for a few minutes, see if we can change my mind quickly. So I always use this rule. It's like, if I like who I am when I'm with you, you can stick around. If I'm okay with who I am when I'm with you, you can stick around. But if I feel bad about myself when you're around, we're done.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you got to almost do that in business too. You almost have to have that same rule, because you're right. There's nothing like you. You have that phone call and you're like, somebody's coming in, or you got that call you got to take, and you're like, let me just.
Oh, it was a dread. Every time I got the phone call, I was like,
And I've had initial phone calls that when they came in was completely different, luckily. But yeah, I've had that situation of just like, I know how this is about to go. And then they come in and I'm like, okay, like, not what I thought or not what I expected. But
yeah.
No, I think you hit an interesting point. My wife's very much the same way. Like, I don't know necessarily that you could chalk it up, but I feel like women tend to be a little bit more discerning of personalities and people. And like, my wife will pick up on things way before. And she's like, nah, that person's weird. Like, we don't want to be hanging out with that person. And I'm just like, okay, like I trust her opinion in that. And that's probably what you have. It's just like, I kind of get a sense, and it's like, not for me.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were talking about that in one of an earlier show. I was talking about the whole relational versus transactional. Like, I can, when I meet people, I can pick up very quickly whether somebody's relational or transactional. Like, I can just, there's something that just comes through, and I can walk away from that pretty quickly.
But transactional is just so popular. That's the unfortunate thing. I mean, I've had so many people reach out to me that I, no offense, don't have a relationship with. And when I don't have a relationship with you, and the first thing that you do is ask me if I want to go make out in the back, I'm like, no.
Hello.
I don't want to do that. And it's, it's, again, you can take a lot of things back to certain things. I'm like, that's like dating. You don't jump to that. There's this whole process. And so even if it was like a moment just to ask me and talk and kind of do, and then I would be like, oh, okay, you sort of open me up to it. But I've had so many people like, hey, no, this is a tough time. If you know anyone that needs to come on to be able to join our team, I'm like, get out of here with that stuff. Like, I've got no problem helping you. I've been doing a ton of that while this stuff has been going on with COVID and everything.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm the same way. Like, I value long-term relationships with the people that I work with my business partners, with the people I do my podcast with. Like, the long-term relationship, I value that more than even potentially making more money or whatever the other things are. It's like, I value that more because I know long-term what the benefits of that are going to be.
And as a startup, that's a hard decision to make,
It
right?
is.
Like, you're so focused on every dollar that's coming in.
And you want them all, but it's...
you have to pass them up, and it's going to be better. I mean, I'm very fortunate now that we have found those right types of
I was about to say, but it shows in your business already of like what all that looks like and how it's running. How has everything been for you guys with what's going on right now in the current climate? Like, has that affected your business? It's
affected us in a positive way.
Really?
So because we are so focused on a digital presence, so many of our clients were moving slow to make a website or do SEO or do digital PR or anything along those lines. So we've actually grown about 25% from
I love
March
it.
because of people now being forced to be online.
Right. We have to do it.
You have to. And same thing on my athlete side. Businesses are trying to leverage athletes' brands and the star on players' helmets, and this is the time to do so. People are on social media all day long.
I was about to say ad spend's going way down because everyone's pulling stuff. So,
Correct.
I got lucky too. My business actually I had a 2-week lull period, and then everything started to pick back up, and I was like, okay. And I got lucky to start working with some people that actually used to work at Facebook, and like I got lucky to be associated through my coach with some people that are like very well known, and they're like, well, we got this thing, and they offered some stuff. So I got very lucky of like, and they're like, listen, this is a great time. So I like almost tripled down of like, if things are going well and I can do this and double down right now, this is going to be the right time.
Right.
And in a positive way, not like, hey, I can take advantage of this situation. It's like, no, I'm luckily in a place right now where financially and freedom of time, I have the ability to do that. And it just makes sense. So I think it's really cool. It has been so rare. There are a couple, and I don't want to mention anyone, like I've talked to businesses and people that are struggling, and I know that there are people who out there that are, But I've been so fortunate, like when we did the support local thing and we
Mm-hmm.
had all these, it was interesting, like what you just talked about, to see how these businesses have pivoted and shifted and changed very quickly and done something that they've been dragging their feet about, because now they had the time and
Right.
they needed to get that done.
For sure.
Like I've been needing to set up a website where we could sell wine, or I've been needing to create an online course, or I've been needing to shift to this. And so now I did, and this was how I was able to make that work. Like it's just an interesting time because we've never been in anything like this.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have
Yeah.
a doctor that had to move to telemedicine. I had to have a winery that had to move to delivery, and so it's just so many pivots. But pivoting's a good thing. And now they're more diversified if they want to go back. I mean, I see as our business has grown, we might not need an office. You know, we have an awesome
Yeah.
office. We didn't go for 2 months and my business grew. Do I need to pay the rent there?
Right.
So
You sound like
it's-
Gary Vee. Gary Vee's like, I never wanted to do this. I would never do this. And he's
Yeah.
like, now I'm kind of seeing this not that bad.
For
Maybe we
sure.
don't, maybe we
Yeah.
I
don't
get to be
need.
home with my pup. Like, life's
Right.
good.
Uh-huh.
No, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think there's a lot of ideas that are being birthed because of this. And one of the things I was talking to somebody about this the other day, is that we're becoming more efficient with things. We're no longer finding the need to have, like you said, this office or all this. I mean, we're learning to navigate in the walls in our house between them, you know?
For sure.
I was joking about today. I was on a coaching call with somebody, and I'm like in one room, and I've got kids in one room, dogs barking, and I'm like, this is our life. This is what we're doing. But we're getting creative, and we're getting things done, and we're doing things that we hadn't touched.
Agreed.
And so I think it's great that your business is picking up. I'm glad to
Thank
hear
you. Yeah,
mine
very
is too, which is
fortunate.
interesting.
It's, and again, it's been a very fascinating thing with everything that's going on. Like, my coach has been telling me, listen, reassessment day is coming up. When things start to open up and back up and things are coming out, people are going to reassess the decisions that they made that got them where they are and figure
Yeah.
out, do I need to do other things?
Completely agree.
Right.
My hope is that this will push people to maybe go do that job that you've been wanting to do. Maybe now you've had the freedom because you've been working from home and you're like, I can get done what I'm normally getting done in this in half that time. And now I freed up all this time, and now I've actually been able to really pour into what it is that I love and what I like to do. And maybe now I'm willing to take that leap.
Yeah.
I agree.
100%.
I mean, yeah, I think it could be fascinating. Like maybe you could share a little bit about that, especially for you. Like, what was it like when you decided to take the leap to branch out on your own? Because I'm sure that was a big step of like, man, I could be nice here and I
Yeah.
could do this, or it's like,
Yeah.
or I could go this other complete other direction.
I thought I was going to be at my other agency that I was at for 6 years, 18 to 24, forever. It was an older agent. I thought I was going to be able to not ride coattails, but ride the
Work your
wave
way up.
and
Yep.
work my way up. And they had said, and it was about a month before I was going to get my agent license. They said, you're doing so well, and I just finished my MBA. They said, you're doing so well in these 2 other divisions. We want you to stay there. And I quit that day, and I said, nobody's gonna stop me from reaching my goal of being an NFL agent.
Right.
I had no plan, literally nothing.
Love it.
I didn't think I was gonna leave. So
You're making so many people that are listening nervous, and I'm like, I love this
I
because
was
I get it.
nervous. I was nervous, and so I brought 3 clients with me, and I just said, let's go. And passed my agent license, continued to recruit, knew, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that I'd take a percentage of my endorsement deals from my clients, but if either of those 3 guys left me, there goes, a third
Yeah.
of potential revenue that I'm bringing in, right?
Yep.
So that's when I knew I needed to get onto the businesses and brand side, which is all monthly retainers, and that's what I can project. That's what I can budget for. It's just a lot more stability on that side.
And you get to have the brilliance of being in between and offering both.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Which I won't ruin the game plan, but there's another guy we could talk off the podcast that I know is doing that, and it's brilliant. Like,
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so obsessed and fascinated by business. I think I'm gonna have to have you over on my podcast because I could talk about this forever of just marketing and advertising. Like these are all things that I had to pick up because I had to wear all those hats in my own business. I was doing all those things, and so now luckily I'm able to kind of digitally hire some other people. But fortunately enough for me, like I own enough of those things. I feel comfortable of I can check in with someone and know whether things I don't just have to pass it off and then trust
Yeah.
that they're doing it.
Right.
It's like I've done enough of these things, and so I love
I wish
marketing
I,
and
I, wi-
branding.
I
and-
wish I had that like well thought out plan, and this is how I structured it, and this is how I knew to start an LLC. I didn't know anything.
No, you don't
Nope.
usually know all those
yeah,
things.
you get connected with a person and you're like, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
this
don't
guy
do
will
that.
start an LLC for you. Great.
Yeah.
What do I need? Well, you need a CPA to tell you how you should structure that. Cool. So I'm going to get this. And then they're going to pass back over.
So yeah,
well,
we
now
didn't
what
have-
do I do?
Yeah, so we didn't have an office for the first 15 months. It was working from home. It was bringing on clients. It was coffee.
Yeah, we'll meet you at your place, meet at a coffee shop. We come to you.
It worked. Yeah. It worked.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, you do. Well, you learn as you go, I think, and that's the beauty of it. You gain a lot of skills by doing that.
Exactly.
So, but and that's going to lead me into my next question, because obviously you have tenacity, you have grit, and I talk about this all the time because, in any capacity, I interview athletes and entrepreneurs on here, and I always talk about that they're very similar, different sports, but the mindset is very similar because you've got to overcome things, and you kind of have to have this, I always say this mindset of, you recognize going into something that you're going to have obstacles, you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have, people reject you, all of that stuff, right? It's part of the business, but you're going to get through it. Right? You're just going to get through it. So I want to know, when you're going after something, because you've gone after some big things here, what does that process look like for you? That mindset, like, what does that look like for you? You've kind of given us some of that, where you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be.
I'll answer that here in a minute. But as a lead-in, I think when I've been hiring different individuals to my team, there's two things I don't think you can just learn or develop. I mean, you can develop, but you either got the right work ethic, and I'm sure you talk about that on, with other guests, but it's work ethic and knowing how to talk to people.
Yeah.
Those are the two baselines on, that's how I bring on business. Every client, other than like one or two, has been my relationships. We don't do any cold calling. We don't do any cold emails. Everything has been on a relationship basis. So getting to the end goal of bringing them on as a client is actually expedited because of that, because I'm able to show, hey, this is what I did for the winery. This is what I did for Cryo. This is what I did for Toyota.
Right.
I have the proven results. So, I mean, from contract to proposal, or proposal to contract to then getting started and onboarding, it takes a couple of weeks, but it's not this blown out process. There's not a whole lot of negotiating. This is our pricing for services. I do everything a la carte. Most agencies say you have to take on these 3 services to work with us. That doesn't work with a lot of small businesses.
Yeah.
So I say, let's start as small as possible. Let's start with just social media. Let me show revenue, and then we'll add on here. Another thing I don't do is I don't do any long-term contracts. Everything is month to month. And I haven't lost a client. I've fired one. And it's just because I've been able to show the results.
Yeah.
So I think those two components of services a la carte and no long-term contracts, it's like, okay, let me give this guy a shot.
Right.
Even, I saw what they did for this person. Let's see what can go. So that's kind of how I've been able to bring on these clients. And then on the athlete side, it's all talk in the locker room, and it's all referrals. But yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to not have to do the cold calling side.
That's good. Well, and I always talk about it. It really is. I mean, if you can build relationships, and the other thing that I would say, that's huge, and this is certainly going on for you, is that I talk about when you get these wins, you build your confidence in the process of this, and it's an attitude. It really is. Anytime you're dealing, even you, Brandon, anytime you're dealing with people, it's an attitude. It's if you're confident in yourself, that's going to come across your people that you're talking to.
And I'm beyond confident on my team. That's another thing. I mean, the line is, you have nothing without the team that you have.
Right.
But I mean,
100%.
I don't do these services. I don't do social media management, SEO, SEM, videography. Those are not my things. But I know I got the best people behind me. So I think I speak with more confidence, knowing that it's not just a one-man show, and I have an awesome team behind me.
People around you, which makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I've got a question just based off of that, because I know how people are. Because I love the approach of month to month, and we're doing this. So especially from a social media standpoint, listen, a lot of things sometimes take 3 months, 6 months to start really getting some traction sometimes. And listen, you may have an approach that's different. What does that look like for you when you're trying to work with someone to get them to understand that? Is it just a system that you have that allows that to happen sooner, or is there?
So on a social media side, our big thing is outbound engagement. Everyone's focused on posting and getting that great image up, but a lot of people are not outbound engagement, meaning commenting and liking on other pages. We do that with hundreds of different pages on a day-to-day basis to bring eyes. And the marketing, statement is, you have to now get in front of businesses. I think it's 11 to 14 times. Back in the day, it was like 5 to 8. So the more times that we can like Dallasites or these different pages that have great presence in the marketplace, that's been one of our biggest focuses. And that's actually really helped us grow our pages.
Yeah.
On a PR side, I do preach that it's a 60 to 90 day process, right? Like, we have to introduce you to the marketplace, introduce you to the reporters. It's not, hey, let's work with us and get going in 30 days and you're going to get ABC, NBC, and everyone out there.
It's rare that happens.
So I do talk about 60 to 90 day process, but it's all about results. And so I believe in our team. And
that's what to say, and I'm sure they get it from that standpoint of just like, okay, because I know that's how that goes. I've worked with enough things. I've set up enough of these, and it's just like, everybody always wants to tell me, and it's like, listen, I want you to know this could be, and I'm like, listen, I already get it.
It's a hard thing to hear. Like, I put myself in the small business owner mentality, and thousands of dollars is not just sitting around to blow. So I'm very, very sensitive on that. My pricing is a fraction of most agencies. I want to make sure I'm doubling or tripling up revenue that they're paying me. Otherwise, I'm just not doing a good job. And then I'm going to have a bad name in the locker room or with the business world. So I'm very, very keen on just, pricing accordingly and making sure I'm able to bring in the revenue. The way our clients are structured is we don't work with any two individuals in the same field. So rather be known as the restaurant agency that has 4 Italian restaurants around town, they're not truly giving them value, right? Like, you can't give each Italian restaurant full 100% value. So we work with, and I like to think of them as the experts in the field, but some of them are small businesses, but they have a great business model. So that's how we operate on the business side, is we just bring on one individual, and it's allowed me to become a lot more diversified in knowing business as a whole and understanding what a small little facial business is doing compared to a winery, compared to Toyota, like all that stuff.
That's awesome.
So I think it's made myself and our team a lot more well-rounded of learning different industries while keeping that value. One realtor, like that's kind of how we operate.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, I have to ask you a fun question.
Okay.
Who's your greatest influencer? You can have more than one.
Definitely my parents.
I was gonna say,
without a doubt.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Both my parents are very, very outgoing individuals.
I love it.
My dad works every day that ends in Y. He doesn't leave his store. He's ultimate hardworking, and just really cultivating relationships and knowing how to talk to people. That's what I've really learned from both of them. It stems from my grandfather as well. Celebrity. And it applies to what's been on ESPN the past month and a half, is Michael Jordan. He has the ultimate put your head down and work while talking a little trash along the way. And I just think that when he set his mind to something, he got there. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the GOAT, right? Like, there's no question.
When he got emotional, when he was like, listen, if you don't want to play that way, then that's fine. But I never asked anyone to do anything that I didn't already do myself.
Exactly.
And you just look at that and you're like, damn, like and you look at it like it comes out about, the trainer that he worked with, which I can only imagine that guy working with Rodman and Pippen and like all those guys. And like they're, GQ did like a whole interview with him about what that looked like and building up his body and working with him and like training with him. And it was fascinating to see of just like that guy that he worked with, he gave that guy to Kobe. He gave that guy to a bunch of other well-known people in the league because he didn't care, because guess what? You've got to put in the work.
Yeah.
You can have my guy. You can have all the tricks and secrets and all the things that got me where I am. But if you're not willing to work as hard as I am, then it doesn't matter, which is also part of why Kobe was a freak and is close to, in my opinion, as close to MJ as anyone else has really ever been, because he emulated him and they were like brothers to each other, almost a little bit of like it came out like he basically was incessantly talking to Michael all the time,
picking his brain.
Yeah. And you see some of that mentality of like Michael had that mentality.
Yeah,
Kobe was that way too.
I agree. So that's I would say parents mixed with just being the best of the best.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, yeah, no, I think that's great. I always ask this question. It's so funny too, because I love to hear what people say. Just, what is there? Some people can have something they spit out like right away, and then other people have to think about it. And, I always talk about it. Like for me, it's always hard because there's so many, but when you were talking about that, I wouldn't ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do. That's kind of my philosophy and everything. Like I never, even when I'm talking to people, I'm never going to tell anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself, It's called integrity.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I love that because you're obviously leading that in your business, and
Thank
you've had great parents, so I love that. Okay, so now I'm going to make this fun on my end because we've had a lot of sports talk here, so we're going to get fun. And
this wasn't
great.
This wasn't sports talk radio.
No, some of it was, some of it wasn't. This was great. This is why I brought Brandon on today because I thought it would be fun. We can mix it up a little bit. So these are my rapid fires. I love to ask. So, all right, morning or night person?
Night.
Brandon, what are you? Morning or night?
Night for sure.
So you're a wolf. So have you read I talk about this on almost every podcast because we get to this question. Have you read The Power of When? WHEN by the Sleep Doctor.
No.
Okay. So check it out. I just talked about it on the last show. I talk about it on every show because it's so funny. He talks about everybody as an animal. You're either a lion, a wolf, a dolphin, or a bear. So if you're a morning person, you're a lion. If you're a night person, you're a wolf. And then you have bears, which are most people. Societal norms are wrapped around bears. And then you have dolphins. They never sleep. And so what's neat about the book is it tells you, like, when's the best time to do everything, like close a contract, exercise, take your medicine, like everything. Negotiate business, everything.
Yeah, I also kind of like morning a little bit. My biggest thing is I love an opportunity when my phone is not ringing. So whether that's morning or night, I get the most work done. Like my 8 to 9 p.m. is so much more productive than my 2 to 3 p.m. during business hours, without a doubt.
I prefer to try to get things done when everybody else is
sleeping,
not doing anything. Yeah, I
do the same thing just in the morning. I'm up at like 5 in the morning. Like I have everything done by noon.
And I think you can make yourself that. I think you can work into that a little bit. Like that's just creating discipline. But that's interesting. I like that.
And I like hitting clients with like a 10 or 11 p.m. email followed by a 6 a.m. That one's that always gets them.
Oh,
like,
yeah, absolutely. We never
sleeping.
sleeps. You're a dolphin. No, but the thing with the book is that, we have this idea that we're supposed to all be up early in the morning. Like we've heard that, like the 5 a.m. club. If you're the 5 a.m. club, if you're doing anything, you're up at 5 a.m. Well, I was a night owl for years. Like I've always been a late sleeper. And then I don't know, something happened when I went through my whole nerve thing. Like my body just shifted, and so now I can't even sleep in. It's like I'm gonna sleep in today. It's gonna be like 7 o'clock.
Yep.
And I'm up at 6.
Yeah, that's part of me having a puppy over the past year. I've been in the forced morning.
So you're
train
kind of being like a parent.
Yeah, kids will force you into that. You have one of those.
Dogs or
like,
kids.
They don't care.
No, exactly.
Is there a difference? Oh.
No, they're pretty similar. I just had that conversation today. I'm like, my pets are like having extra kids in my house. But the thing is with this is that they're saying that, your patterns are based on these circadian rhythms. So maybe you're not meant to be an early morning person. And so like for me, I'm very task oriented in the morning. That's when I like knock everything out. But I get crazy stupid, like I can get creative in the afternoon because I'm not being task oriented anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I do my best. Like if I'm going to put a post up, I probably would do better if I do them in the evening. Mm-hmm. But I'm task oriented. I want everything done by noon. Like I got to have it all
like
out.
that.
Yep.
So anyways, it's a good book. It's worth read. You learn something in there.
Awesome.
All right. We just talked about, like, you got a puppy. I was going to say dog or cat. Do you like cats?
No,
just
dog.
dogs.
Definitely
okay.
a dog.
What's your puppy's name?
Bentley with 2 E's. So she's a little
What?
girl Bentley.
What kind of puppy is it?
So now I can tell people I got my Bentley at home.
Yeah. This is
This is freaking me out because I have a dog at home. And his name is Bentley.
No way.
Yes, I'm not even
And guess
kidding
what?
you.
I don't have a dog at home
This
named
is Bentley.
Bentley.
Okay, so mine is a toy poodle.
They're like, for our listeners are going to be like,
nice.
yeah.
I was about to say now that I'm on here.
It's on the. They can't see yours because it's on the screen.
No, there shouldn't be anything that would be too terrible in
We're
here.
not going to say my podcast just got crazy.
Yeah,
right?
it'll just be TikToks and
special.
pictures of my daughter.
This is our special edition to Starter Girls.
See, there's
awesome.
Bentley.
Okay, there's Bentley.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I have no Bentleys, and my dogs are big. I have a pit bull and a Catahoula.
Hilarious.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are the chances? I'm a dog person. I got a dog named Bentley. I'm like, get out of here.
You got a dog named Bentley.
We can be friends.
Yes.
So funny. It's too funny.
Did we just become best friends? Sorry, Step Brothers moment.
This is what I do. I make connections. See?
Already. I was like, hey, you're going to have to come be on my podcast. We're going to have to meet outside of this. I'm like, my brain is already spinning again. We talk about it later in the afternoon. I'm like, I can already. This is what happens to me. I can't turn it off.
That's great.
It's awesome. It's awesome. All right, Aaron, what's your favorite food?
Pizza.
Pizza.
We have Pizza Friday every Friday. That's our go-to. We've
awesome.
been during quarantine. We've been trying different pizza spots, but
What kind of
Pie Tap so far, not a plug, not a client.
Okay.
A goal. It would be a great goal, but.
So what's your favorite pizza? Like, what do you get on it? What's your favorite?
I do a prosciutto arugula.
Ooh, yeah.
With some ricotta on it. Oh, it's a game changer.
Interesting.
If my future in-laws are listening, that's not kosher, but hopefully they don't. They keep me around.
We might scare them on this podcast. I don't know.
Whoops, sorry
We'll
about
be
that.
like, we're not gonna listen to that one.
just
Any
pretend
other
that you don't know what that
Starter
is.
Girls podcast is clean and motivating and all of that good stuff. But this was a special edition today.
I think this had all those things.
It did.
sure.
It did. We talked about a lot of good stuff in here. All right, our summer, winter person.
Summer, get me on the beach. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And here's my last fun question. If Brandon has some, he can throw them in there. If you could be any character for a day, what would you pick? Like any character.
Probably Spider-Man, just to like fly around.
I can see you be a spider.
Hell
I can totally
yeah.
see you be a spider.
I mean, I kind of look like the Hulk, but like I'll stay in my own lane and go with.
I love it.
Spider-Man.
I love it. Spider-Man's been my favorite since I was growing up.
I've,
So
Great.
again, another one.
Yeah,
Brandon, what would you pick?
4.
Thor.
No, what would I pick for that?
Yeah,
oh,
you
I
would-
would pick Spider-Man too. It'd either
Oh,
be
you pick Spider-Man
It
too?
would be
Y'all are being-
Spider-Man would be
hold on.
number 1.
Y'all are
Iron
being
Man
like-
would be number 2 because you're rich and you just have
Ooh.
like that
Yeah.
guy's next level smart and he has the money to be able to create all these things. Like I totally have that brain. I just need the ability to be able to have that. So Iron Man would have to be a close second. I feel like almost anyone would be like, yeah, I picked Tony Stark. Like that makes sense.
Well,
but
I'm not gonna
Spider-Man
pick
is
Tony
so fun
Stark, but-
and also in close relationship to Tony Stark through the story. So
Yes, agreed.
Y'all are like Twinkies today on
For
my
sure.
podcast.
This is fun.
basically, he did pick summer though. I
yeah,
would have picked
yeah,
winter.
Matching dogs,
is this,
and y'all are gonna both be
Is this
Spider-Man for a
starter
day.
boys or? Is
It
it
might be,
right?
It's Starter Girls +1 today, right? Or +2. It's hey, you know what? We're all about evolving, so
it.
it's all good. It's all good. All right, this has been awesome. It's great.
Thanks.
A lot of fun information. And Brandon, thanks for being on here. So I'm going to let you guys
you.
both put in a plug really quick. So Brandon, I'll let you start. If our listeners want to find out about what you're doing with your whole migraine doctor, he's also Dr. Burgundy. What else do you do? You got like a whole TikTok thing going.
I was about to say all the nicknames in the world.
You
that
got
have
lots
just,
of nicknames.
I had no nicknames in high school, and then all of a sudden, it was Dr. Double B, Dr. Burgundy,
Dr. Burgundy.
all this stuff.
Yeah,
so it's like
tell them why are you Dr. Burgundy?
because it's a color that I
you
inherently
got
just started
look at
wearing,
watch.
and
Check
like
his watch.
yeah, like
I
literally
really wish it was
this
a
thing.
Ron Burgundy. 'Cause that's like
Well,
my
that's sort of the thing as it goes
Anchorman,
with that.
anything
Yeah.
related.
I love it.
I just bought some Air Maxes that are all completely burgundy colored.
Ooh, nice.
I have a burgundy suit. I've got a shirt that's. It's just. It kind of became a thing because it was this like pullover zip up that I had, and I wore that a lot.
So
and then it was
funny.
kind of and I was like, well, I guess I'm very much about branding again, like we talked about in things. And I'm like, well, if I'm gonna have a color that I'm associated with, it's probably this. So I'll just dive into that. So I love pattern recognition. So if you see that stuff, you think of me. So most people probably don't know it, but if you watch my videos or you see my stuff, I do that in some of my things. And
Yeah.
so I'm associated with AirPods with a lot of people that I know because I wear them in almost every video that I do. I've got my AirPods in, and I had several people mention it to me, and I was like, I did that without knowing it, and then I started being more aware of that and other things that I was doing. But anyways, besides the point, we can get back to
Where do we find you at, Dr. B?
you can find me on Facebook. My office is the Specific Chiropractic Center's Richardson. You can add me on Facebook. It's just Brandon Brown. Instagram is the Migraine Doc, and TikTok is the Migraine Doc. If you want to go over there and watch some even more
Watch him dance.
ridiculousness,
Yeah.
yes.
Brandon, we'll have to get you back on here so we can talk about the podcast
I
again,
would
too.
love
Put
to.
put in a plug for the podcast. Don't be
And
so rude.
I'm part of a trio of guys that have a podcast called Don't Be So Rude. We basically call it the Seinfeld of podcasts. You never have any clue what you're going to get or what we're going to necessarily talk about, but it's entertaining and we have a good time. So
That is fun.
we'll bring you on the next time we watch a UFC fight. We come up here and do them live. We'll just come up here. We'll talk about your podcast. It'll be great.
Yeah, sounds fun. All right, and Aaron, tell us how.
I'm at Aaron Zack 21 on social media platforms and revolvingmindmedia.com for agency.
Awesome. Any last minute thoughts you want to put in about the agency, or you told us a lot of great stuff today? Like
I'm just very fortunate to be on. Shout out to my fiance, who's my motivating factor every single day. She just got her doctorate while working full time, so she's ultimate boss lady. So she pushes me to be better every single day.
You guys got a lot of rocking stuff going on over there. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Birds of a feather flock together, right?
Exactly.
Say that. You got to find the right people to align yourself with, for sure.
Completely agree.
For sure. All right.
This was fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome. All right. Well, with that, I want to say to our listeners really quick, thank you, Dr. B, for being on here. And thank you, Aaron, for being guest. And so to our listeners, if you enjoy our podcast, please be sure you give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook, because we can't do this without you. And hit that subscribe button on the YouTube, please. And with that, I'm going to wrap up with our mantra. All right. It's a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change your circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. Rise up, be amazing, be you, do you. All right, you guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.